Good morning, everyone. Today, what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at the Collage project. This is the second version of this project for you. It's just a re-record just because the audio on the last one is not that desirable. So we're going to go through the project. So if we go under the assignment, you're going to see three different things. First is the video. I'm going to add the corrected one. We have the collage directions, which is the step-by-step written out directions for you. And then you also have a third resource. And then with this resource, what it is basically a website that gives you free stock images that are royalty free. And also they're incredibly high resolution. So it's great for us to use. You don't have to join, but it's available if you wish to. So basically, the first thing you're going to do is type in a topic. So I'm going to gives you some suggestions, by the way. I'm just going to type in nature just because I do like the nature images that work with this. From this, we can move around, take a look at which ones best fit us. I do like working with horizontals with this project, but it is not something that is absolutely necessary. Something else that works well with this is something that doesn't have too much of a repetitive object throughout the image itself. So take a look around, try to find one that is maybe a little further down, something that you would like to mess around with. So as I'm scrolling here, I see some that I really do like, but I want something that has a lot of variation in it. So I do like, say, photographs like this. The great thing about photographs from this website is besides for the fact that we have a free download, it actually gives you the ability to follow these photographers. You can see how many times that this particular image has been seen, how many times it's been liked. So it gives you some awesome information about the photographers. And it's something that if you choose to, you can actually submit some of your own work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hover over this little down arrow here, and I'm just going to check the resolution. As I said, the resolution in all these images are extremely high. So this is actually a great image for me to use because the original image is over 5,000 by over 3,000. That is an incredibly large image. So we're actually going to hit free download for this. Again, here is information about the photographer. That's the way that they nice way for them to keep their website free and spread the awareness of photographers, which is a great thing. We are going to pull open our image. So I am dragging that directly over into our Affinity Photo program. Next, what I am going to do is I am actually going to create shapes. So the first thing I'm going to do is click this rectangular tool. If it's not rectangular for you, if it's one of these other ones, it doesn't matter. You can actually choose any of these shapes. So today I'm going to start off by using a rectangle. And when I click and drag, you can see I can make this any shape that I want. If I hold the shift button, it actually allows me to create a square if that's something that you desire. In this case, I do desire a square, so I'm going to do that. But I'm also going to help align this a little bit better. So you can see we have align left, right, center, those three. So that's the horizontal alignment. And then we have align top, middle, bottom, which is our vertical alignment. So I'm going to hit middle. So this way vertically, this is center, but I do want to keep this off center horizontally. It's just a design element that I'm choosing to mess around with. The next thing I want to do is I want to drop the fill. So all I do is just click on the fill color and hit the circle that has the red line through it. What that does is it's saying, hey, no color at all. Next thing I want to do is I actually, I can choose the color for my stroke if I choose to. Right now I'm just going to keep it black. It's not a big deal on what color I have at this moment, because we can always change them as a group later on. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add a stroke to my shapes. I like to leave them a little bit thinner at first right now, because later on what we're going to do is we're going to turn around and we're actually going to thicken these. And the reason why we thicken them is because when we're in the process of doing this project, sometimes there's a little bit of gaps between the images. And if we increase the stroke later on, we can hide those gaps without doing any additional work. The other thing is I like to change my cap edge to be square. And what this does is it allows my edges to be nice and pointy rather than rounded on the edge. You may actually also miter the joints as square as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add additional shapes in here. So I can do things like additional rectangles. So if I hit Command J, you can see that that actually created an additional rectangle for me. If I don't do anything else to the project before this next step, I'll actually be able to duplicate this process that I'm doing right now. So I'm holding Shift and I'm bringing this in. It just gave me a random thing. I guess that's some kind of marker that it's picking up on, and it created that vertical green line. I'm not quite sure why it did, but maybe it's the center of the actual image altogether. Now, because I didn't touch anything else, any keyboard strokes, mouse clicks, nothing like that, if I go to hit Command J again, you'll see that shape is then repeated with the shrinking percentage-wise as well. You can see that as I continue to hit Command J, it does this again and again and again and again. We actually learned this with the BLT project, so hopefully this isn't something that comes to a surprise to you. Now, I do like the way that that did this, but I do want to add a little bit of a line. So what I'm going to do is I am going to choose my pen tool. Basically, your pen tool looks like a calligraphy pen. I'm going to start off in my corner down here. I'm going to find where it clicks in. I do have my my alignment and snapping on, all three of them on, which is helping me do this. So just as a heads up, that's where I'm getting all these green and red lines from. So I'm going to go all the way to the other corner. It clicks in, and you can see that because I did, all these are perfect squares, it goes all the way through. Now, I don't like how thin some of these are, so I think once I get to a certain point, maybe I might actually just delete one or two of these, just so my shapes aren't too small. I actually like the way that it was better, so I just hit Command Z until all those went away, or went back to where they were. Okay, so now after I create my shapes, so whatever your design is, again, you can choose whatever shapes you want to work with, mess around with them, have fun, make a pattern, make something abstract, whatever you want to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that bottom rectangle that's on in my layers panel. I'm just going to scroll all the way up to the top. I'm going to hold Shift and click on that top layer. Notice that I do not have the background layer selected here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the little folder here, or you could hit Command G, and that creates a group. Now for this next step, I have to hide the background layer because I want my project to merge all of these. If my background layer is visible, it's going to merge all of those shapes down onto this, and then our project's not going to work the way that we want it to. So I hit Merge Visible. Since the only things that are visible is the stuff that's in this group, that becomes one pixel layer all to itself. So if I hide this group, you can see that this shape is all just one layer now. Bring back the background layer. Now, the next portion of the project is something that it's rinse and repeat is the terminology that I say. It's basically you do the same thing over and over and over and over again in order to finish the project. So what I'm going to do is so this way you don't have to sit and watch me. I will start the process do it a couple times, and then I'll pause the video in recording. So then this way you don't have to watch me do it all the way throughout. And I'll pick back up once I have all of my sections complete. So I like to change this top layer to start. So it reminds me, hey, you need to start here each time. Then the background layer, it's whatever layer is going to be down at the bottom, which should be this one with the lock. The reason why I don't rename this to like second step or whatever it may be is because we're going to wind up copying a lot of this layer a ton of times. But each time I copy it and paste it in, it just keeps the same name. So I'll wind up having a bunch of things named the same thing. So it doesn't matter what it says because you're going to have a ton of them. Just know that you want the one with the lock, and it should be all the way down at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to start here. Magic Wand tool. We learned about this in a previous project. Also known in this program as the Flood Select tool. We click on an empty area. So again, that picks up this empty area in this layer here. If we had this layer clicked, what would happen is it wound up selecting something that would look something like this on your screen, where you have large bits that are actually selected. You don't want that. You only want an area within your shapes to be selected. After I select this, I click on the background layer right away, change it to the marquee selection tool. You can hit the M tool or M button on your keyboard, and it'll bring that up for you if it's not there already. Now what I'm going to do is you can see how when I'm in the center of the selection, the move symbol is now seen on the screen right here. If I click and drag my selection to somewhere else on the screen, hit Command C, V, D. So Command C for copy, Command V for paste, and Command D for deselect. If you hold Command the whole time, and then just hit C, V, D in that order, it'll get the job done. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to here and grab my move tool. I'm going to move this shape back to where I got my selection from. Now, if you have your snapping on like I do, there's a good chance it may not go in right. You can hit the arrow keys in order to try to line it up as best as you can. There is most likely going to be a very small gap around your image on 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 sides, whatever it is. It's something that's there. It's unavoidable. Unavoidable. You can see I have that little halo that's right around my image right now. We are going to fix that later on in a step that I alluded to earlier. You can also zoom in and fix that position. You can see I kind of have this little extra thing right here, which I'm going to fix later on. I'll show you what to do if you have that same issue. Okay, it's a quick little step. Basically what I did was this line, I extended it just a little too far and didn't realize. But we'll fix that later on. If it's something that's in the middle of your project, something that would jut out, which would erase some of like a selection or something, you would want to fix it right away. But in our case, right now, I don't have that. Again, I'm going to start here. Wand tool, select an area, background, marquee selection tool, and I'm going to change this. My goal is to try to change this so this way other things that aren't in this area that look similar are going to be in my new shape. Okay. Command V or CVD, move tool, move that into place. Now you can see I accidentally selected an area slightly off the screen. So I have to undo that, unfortunately. And I got to do it again. So Command CVD, it's a good mistake to make for my case in this demo, so this way you can see what to do if you make the same mistake. Now I'm going to undo all this stuff because I'm finding it really hard to put it in position. So that's close enough as it is now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to pause my recording, and I'll come back to this as soon as I'm done all my shapes. I don't want to waste time. So I have officially completed all of my copies of the background. So what we're going to do next is I'm actually going to hide this background layer. The reason why I like hiding the background layer is it actually makes putting all of these into place so much easier. I did put them in their spots, but then I find it when I want to correct these and put them lined up correctly, it's a whole lot easier. Now I do have two images here and here that are a little too close um, for comfort. I like them to have a little bit more variety than that, personally at least. So there's a chance I might, in the end, choose to change that. But I mean, at least for today, uh, today's video, I'm just going to leave them there out of interest of time. Now, you'll notice that you can actually see me moving them and I'm not dragging them. It's because what I'm using is I'm actually using my cursor keys to put them into place. If I have large gaps like I just did on that one, I hold down the shift button and it allows me to move things at a greater pace. But the problem is sometimes you overshoot it. So use it with caution. So again, if it's large, I might use it, and then just sometimes I have to go back because I did too much. Sometimes works out pretty good. It speeds up the process. Now, when I am done this, um, as I mentioned earlier, there is a way to hide some of those little tiny gaps. Because let's face it, as much as we want to be perfect, it's not going to be exactly the way we want, because when we use the flood selection tool, what it's doing is it since we're selecting the empty area, it is selecting the empty area that has the most amount of empty spaces. As we get closer, because it's a pixel layer, and we actually zoom in, which I will in a second, the edges get a little fuzzy. They're not completely black, but they're also not completely clear either. And because of that, that messes up um, our our shape. So instead of having to go in and resize all of these to be slightly larger to fill in those gaps, like I'm doing right now, that would be a big pain. Instead, what we can do is we can actually make the lines a little thicker, which is why I said to go a little bit thinner than you probably want to do, and it'll fill in those gaps all for us instead. But as I mentioned, let's zoom in here so we can see how we have pretty straight lines actually right there. But you can see right there, there's a little bit of fuzziness. That's what's happening to the selection. It's seeing that little bit of fuzziness and not selecting those areas, which is why our line is our shapes that we're cutting and copying and pasting in don't always line up exactly perfectly. So now I am going to add the original group of layers back in. I'm going to re-highlight all of these shapes. So clicking on the first one, scrolling down, holding shift, clicking on the last one, come back to the shape tool, and you can see my stroke is now available again. I'm going to increase the stroke until it looks pretty good for me. I don't see any gaps. I like the way that this looks. Maybe put this back down at 20. Because I like nice even numbers. Check my spots. Looks like this one could just get a little nudge to the left. This one, the same thing. A little nudge to the left, and I should be perfect. And again on this one. Looks like I need to nudge that down just a tad. But other than that, I think any of the other ones I might be just nitpicking a little too much. So I think I am good to go with leaving this as is. I think I'm good to go. All right, so now what I like to do is I like to put all of these background layers minus this one all into a group so I can easily click them on and off. I don't re-click this pixel one, the one that says start, because I don't need it anymore because I created the shapes here. I bring back the background layer. Now, there's a chance that I don't like the way that it looks. In my case, that is the case. I don't like the way that it looks. So I could always change out one of these. I might actually, as I said in the end before, I feel like I'm done just personally, I might change out this one and this one because I don't like that it doesn't vary enough. But the other thing I can do is I can actually mess with my opacity and blending options, see if it's something that I like. It looks like for some reason, I think because it's maybe listed as pass through, or my screen is stalling, one or the other. Let's switch that to normal and see if it lets me do what I'm trying to do. Yeah. Now, what I'm doing is just lowering the opacity, so some of the original image can show through. I can save this as... Sorry about that. But to show you the last little bit, what we can do is we can lower the opacity, as I said. If for some reason it wasn't working like it was for me, for your group, you can just add or change it from pass through to normal. The other cool thing that we can do is we can actually come over here and in our adjustments, if you want to add a HSL adjustment, what we just do is we tuck it inside that group. You can see it puts it up at the top for us. And we can actually change the little shade or the color of the images if you really wanted to. You don't have to do this. This is all little extra stuff. But once you are done, make sure that you save your work, submit it, and turn it in so you can have a grade for the assignment. Hope you enjoy the assignment and have fun with it. And let me know if you have any questions.